Hello, my name is Matthew, and I thought I would do a tag this morning. This is the self-aware reader tag. I've seen it going around. It was first created by Courtney Ferriter, and I'll leave a link to her video below. I first saw it on Shawn the Book Maniac's channel, and it was just such a great discussion, and it's a really good list of questions, and I'll go through them and we can talk as we go along. The first question: what most draws you into a novel or story and makes you want to keep reading? Plot, characters, writing style, atmosphere, something else? And the thing that most draws me in is the capability of the storyteller. When I feel like I'm hearing a unique voice, an individual, thoughtful, interesting story told by just one person that couldn't be told in any other way. There's a magic that comes off the page when you're hearing somebody's voice. There's a person talking to you. I just love that. And when I get that feeling, all of the rest of the parts in the best scenario fall into place. The characters automatically are interesting, and the story is interesting, even if it's a very ordinary, plain character. A great storyteller can turn a boring person into something extremely intriguing. The same thing with a story. It could be a novel about somebody just going through his day, or someone that can't get out of bed, and a great storyteller will keep you interested and turn it into something captivating. The same way that a bad storyteller can take the most adventurous, exciting things and tell it in the most awful, boring way that feels laborious. So it's the storyteller, the voice of the author, that just really gets me. Question number 2. What is a convention or trope that will immediately turn you off in your reading experience with a novel or story? And there are a couple things. One is if I feel like a story is going through the motions, if there's no passion behind the story that I'm reading, by the numbers, in general, that kind of feeling where the author doesn't want to be there, and if I feel that, I don't want to be there. I also don't like being talked down to. That, of course, nobody does, and that can come off the page as well. Some specific things that I guess is a trope or a convention. If a story just sounds like a chronological list of things happening, those terrible... I have this feeling in real life when I'm having conversations and someone is just starting at the beginning of the day and saying, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and it's not getting to any sort of point. We're just going through what happened chronologically, which isn't a nice gift box of a story. And then as far as specific things that just bug me would be those novels where you'll have multiple storylines going on, and that the end of each chapter stops with a cliffhanger. Something surprising or unexplained happened, and then the next chapter we move on to a different story. And cliffhangers can be fun, but when a novel is relying on that formula, every chapter is ending with a cliffhanger, and then, meanwhile, back at the ranch, and then we go on for more. to another cliffhanger. I find it to be extremely lazy storytelling and writing. Um, it feels as if there's just a trick happening, and that's not a way to keep my attention. It just feels gimmicky to me. Let's see. Number 3, what most appeals to you when reading nonfiction and makes you want to keep reading? And it depends. There's the kind of nonfiction where I'm reading something because I'm already interested in it. So like a biography of an artist or an author or poet. And I love it when I just feel as if I'm getting to know a person in a biography, when it feels like these people that I imagine in my mind are coming to life. And a good biographer, in my mind, is walking that line between giving me all the facts and then arranging all of the facts in a way that feels true to life, and it's something that I want to learn more about and go on this story, and get to know the world and time and people that I'm reading about, opposed to just being given a whole bunch of facts and at the end of it maybe knowing more about the person's life but not really learning very much about the person. And then the other kind of nonfiction for me is all the stuff that I don't know about. And so, as an example, years ago, I read a biography on Rasputin. It was this old, ugly, dirty black book somebody gave me. And at the time, I had no idea who Rasputin was. And I started reading it, and I was just absolutely fascinated by just the act of learning, finding out, like, well, who is this guy? And all of a sudden, it's the best feeling in the world to, like, know nothing about, have never thought about it before, and then just in a spark, I'm just drawn in and go like, well, wait a minute, I want to know all about this. This time in Russia and this crazy person, and I get that feeling a lot now because there's so much that I don't know. And when I start reading something that I'm not familiar with, and an author can make me interested, it's amazing. It's incredible. I think I've mentioned this before, but John McPhee has that little book on oranges. So, a terrific example of just a totally mundane, everyday subject that he turns into a page turner. All of a sudden, you want to know everything about oranges, and he's there willing to tell you. Let's see. What is a convention or trope in nonfiction that will turn you off in your reading experience? And I guess when a nonfiction author forgets that they need to be interesting, they need to keep my attention and do any manner of things that make me want to keep reading. Just because it doesn't matter if it's a subject that I'm already interested in or not. If it's boring, I'll just really not care. I guess I don't think that's a great answer. Let me read that again. What is a convention or trope in nonfiction that will turn you off in your reading experience? A better example would be if if I'm reading a nonfiction book that just goes totally over my head and is not interested in making a connection with me as the reader. Now, with general nonfiction, so not academic or scholarly books, but things that would be in a bookstore that I should be able to pick up and enjoy and not have a new research project. Would you say you read more for pleasure and enjoyment, or more to learn and exercise your brain? And it's both. I think the role of great writing, like it's been mentioned before, the role of great writing is to be enjoyable and entertaining and also instructive. It's there to do both. As an example, right now I'm reading The Magic Mountain and by Thomas Mann, and it's hard to get around that it's a difficult book to read, and Thomas Mann seems to know that and make sure that on every page he keeps it entertaining, even parts where the plot just stops and we go on digressions or philosophical conversations. The instructive part is just as interesting as the interesting parts are instructive. So if I want to just do something totally for pleasure, if I want to be entertained totally for pleasure, I'll watch television. I go to books to get both things. Let's see. Which type of books are more likely to rate more highly and enjoy more overall? What does that say? Which type of books are you likely to rate more highly and enjoy more overall? Brain candy, pleasure, enjoyment books, or brain protein, learning exercise books? And like I just said, I want every book that I read to be pleasurable and enjoyable, and for me to get something out of them. It takes a long time to read these books. It's hours and hours. I want to feel as if it's a meaningful experience. It's the same way when you go out with friends and have a fun day at the park. It's meaningful when there's substance behind it, when it's not a wasted day. It was a perfectly used day. Spending time with friends or family members, or all these writers that were taking their time to write a story for me to read. Do you have a sense early on of whether or not the book you're reading will be a 5-star read, or a book you will really like? Has a book ever surprised you in this regard? I don't have a rating system. I know on Goodreads a 5-star read is, I guess, a perfect book or a really, really great book or something like that. I do feel most of the time I get a sense of whether or not I'm going to have a good time with a book and enjoy the author's company very early on. In my experience, some of the books that I've had a difficult time with that were books that I was already aiming for, and I've mentioned these kinds of books before. The idea of purposefully trying to read above my my own reading comprehension. So and I know I've mentioned this before, but the first time I read the Karamazov brothers, and really early on going like, okay, I'm not sure I'm gonna get this, but there's so many other things going on which makes me think that it's going to be worth the effort and worth the confusion. Modern novels where I don't have that same background, or it's not a famous writer that is already well regarded and has managed to stay relevant over 100 years. In that sense, if I start the first page and it's not working for me, I very rarely become surprised. The opening pages should be fairly strong, and unfortunately, probably a character defect on my part is that I sour very quickly and lose patience if I'm really not getting along with the author. It's hard for me to get halfway through a book and then warm up to it. So if I feel like I'm being insulted or just bored the whole time, I am not that forgiving with these authors. Considering books that you have rated 5 stars in the past, or if you don't rate them, then books you really loved, do you think you would feel the same way about them now? Why or why not? And for the most part, books that I've loved, I revisit. I constantly go back to Flaubert and Guy de Maupassant and Kafka and Dostoevsky and Truman Capote and Dorothy Parker and Virginia Woolf. And one of the things one of the things about enjoying these books is just enjoying the writer's company and being with them and sharing their thoughts just as much as what the character is going to do. That almost becomes a side effect or an additional benefit to just being in a writer's company, a person that I really get along with. There are rare examples where I'm reluctant to go back to an author. I've mentioned before Ernest Hemingway, where several of his novels, maybe 10 years ago, whenever I was reading them, I just loved. Farewell to Arms, The Sun Also Rises, For Whom the Bell Tolls, and I worry that my high esteem for those books could change. I've been reading Ernest Hemingway and short stories recently and enjoying them, so I think I will return because I do want to be able to put my own judgment up to scrutiny and not entirely rely on nostalgia. I think that makes sense. So I do enjoy returning to books that I love, and most often the result is that I love them more. And I think the last question is to tag people. I've been seeing this all over the place, so I know a lot of people have been tagged. I'll just say that if you're interested, just as anyone else would say, you feel free to do it. It's all for fun. So yeah, if you would like, you're tagged. And that's it. It's the self-aware reader tag. Hopefully I gave some good answers. I feel like I got confused in the middle of it, but thank you for watching. Leave a comment if you would like, and take care. Thank you. Bye.